Welcome to the channel. I'm James Salvatore, and today I have something interesting here for you all. This is a 2020 Porsche Macan, but this isn't any normal Macan. This is the turbo model, the best one money can buy. And in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing it for you all, telling you some things you need to know about the vehicle, and then I'm going to go for a drive and share my thoughts on it with you. But before we get into the video, be sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm because it really helps promote the videos, and be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to be alerted when I post my future content. On the channel, I usually do new car reviews, new car comparisons, classics, exotics. So if that sounds like your thing, be sure to stick around. And with that said, cue the cinematics. Wow. If you're one of my followers, you know that I've done a few videos on the Macan at this point. I've reviewed a Macan S and I've done a Macan versus Cayenne comparison. So if you're interested in those videos, be sure to check them out at the end of the video. I'm gonna link them for you. All right, with that out of the way, let's get right into how practical this car is. The Macan strikes a nice balance between overall performance and practicality. When it comes to fitting full-size adults in the rear seat, you can see that being 6'1", I have a decent amount of headroom here. And when it comes to leg room, you can see that, you know, yes, it's a little bit tight, but I'm still comfortable. And I've already set up my driver's seat in the position that I would normally drive in. And when it comes to rear cargo room, you're not really making any sacrifices here because the Macan has 17.6 cubic feet of cargo storage with the seats up, and when you fold them, you get 52.9 cubic feet of cargo storage, which is really good for a vehicle this size. And I also like that you get the automatic privacy shade that goes up and down with the tailgate. But if you need to remove it, it's really simple. You just undo these two cables and this lifts up now. And for those of you coming off a 3-year lease, when it comes to tech, the Macan has indeed been updated. It was refreshed last year for the 2019 model year. You now have Porsche's updated Infotainment System, which features a 10.9-inch high-definition multi-touch display with Google Maps as the navigation software. I really like it. It's nice and responsive, and I mean, it doesn't really get much more cutting edge than this. You also have Apple CarPlay connectivity, and you have a bunch of apps built into the stock software that are pretty helpful. And when it comes to the driver's information center, you could see that they've kind of minimalized things here a little bit. You still have your traditional analog gauge cluster here with the digital display on the right that is configurable along the steering wheel. If you take a look, you could sort through, you know, your trip information, a few vehicle settings, your torque split, sport chrono, your audio, phone, and then you have your satellite maps. I mean, in Porsche's other vehicles that have the more updated instrument cluster, you'll get dual LCD screens. However, just because you don't get that here as an option doesn't mean that you're missing out on any functionality, so I wouldn't worry about that. They've just kind of condensed all those functions into one screen instead of having two. With that out of the way, let's focus on performance because that's kind of the whole point of getting a turbo model. Under this beautiful clamshell hood, you'll find a twin turbocharged 2.9 liter V6 producing 434 horsepower and 405 foot-pounds of torque, mated to a 7-speed dual clutch PDK transmission with all-wheel drive, which makes this car good for 0 to 60 in just 4.3 seconds with the top speed of 167 miles an hour. This car also has Porsche's active air suspension system, which dramatically reduces body roll in the corners, as well as their active sports exhaust system, which features a loud mode and a quiet mode. Let's take a listen to that. enough talking about this thing. Let's get this thing out on the road. All right, getting into the Macan Turbo, you could definitely tell that this is the highest performance model. There is a noticeable amount more power than what the Macan S has. Take a listen. Yeah, this thing is properly quick. I mean, honestly, this thing is handling a lot better than I thought it would. I mean, the normal Macan S is definitely where I see more body roll, but in this car, it just handles it like a champ. The next thing I want to talk about is kind of the elephant in the room with this car, and that's the price. At just under $100,000, as spec'd here, this car is $97,000. The price is nothing to sneeze at. And you have to think to yourself, what am I getting for my money at this point? And to help you guys justify it, the only way I could think of is to kind of describe maybe how much of a gap there is between the Macan S and the Turbo, because any other model in between doesn't really make sense. When it comes to power, I mean, it's noticeable. Straight line performance, the Turbo is a completely different car. In the corners, you know, this definitely has an edge in handling. However, the Macan S actually was a very good handling car to start off with. This definitely feels a little bit sharper, but I don't know if it justifies an extra $25,000 to $30,000. When it comes to overall looks and presence, you could purchase a lot of different cars for $100,000. I mean, first off, you can get a base 911 if you wanted to for that money. You can get a fully loaded Cayenne, you can get a fully loaded Boxer, Cayman, you name it. I mean, there are a lot of different cars you can get in that price point. So does this feel worth it? I mean, in terms of looks and presence, I would say no. To me, there isn't enough that differentiates this in terms of looks from something like a Macan S to this model. I mean, you still get the quad exhaust pipe, so it's not like, oh, he has the quad exhaust pipe, so you can definitely tell that that's a turbo model. No, this is a very subtle car. To the untrained eye, most people who don't understand the significance of a turbo badge definitely aren't going to understand that this is the highest end performance car. To them, it's just going to be another Macan. So if that's something that matters to you, I guess you won't really be able to justify this. So therefore, I think that the only person who can really justify it from that perspective is somebody who's looking for something subtle, something that doesn't stick out. And not everybody is. I mean, if you have a few other sports cars and you're just looking for something fun that's, you know, a SUV, but it's not too big and heavy, this definitely fits that well. And don't take what I'm saying the wrong way. I'm only saying things like this to help you justify, you know, buying one of these, to tell you what the difference is, how much of a gap there is between, you know, the average Macan that you can get for a lot less money in this, and what makes this special. I mean, other than that, I can't really think of too much other justification other than the fact of you just want it because you love the way it looks and you want the highest performance variant of this car. Now let's move on to talking about the driving experience, because the driving experience in this car is very unique. This car definitely offers something that you don't find in other crossovers in this segment, even their high performance models. I mean, in my opinion, a GLC 43 doesn't even come close to this. I mean, the 63 maybe kind of close to this, but it also doesn't look as good, and I don't think it handles as nicely. This car is just so well balanced. I mean, honestly, one of the first things that hits you about any Macan when you get into it is how easy it is to drive, how easily you could see out of this vehicle. I mean, the visibility in this car is superb. You have the nannies if you need them, don't get me wrong, but you definitely won't feel a need for them. You know, you won't feel a need to look at the backup camera and whatnot, because you could just see so easily out of this vehicle. But enough of that. Let's see how it does in sporty driving situations. So we're on a nice curvy back road, throw in the car in Sport Plus, hammer it down. As you can see, it's very responsive. It just picks right up, and it sounds so good for what it is. It definitely has that characteristic Porsche sound that everybody looks for. You know, like if you love the 911 or you have a 911 and you're just looking for an SUV kind of, this definitely has a similar kind of feel to that. One of the things that I noticed though as I was driving it is how quickly you forget what you're driving. And let me explain that point. You look at an SUV today and they're so deceiving because something like this, you know, you expect to be kind of heavy and have a lot of body roll in the corners, but that is just not the case at all. I mean, like, you pitch this thing into a corner, it feels like a car. I mean, approaching a turn, it really feels like I'm driving a sports car, even though this is an SUV. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you know, if you don't look around you and realize that you're in a big car, you totally forget, because all you see is, you know, what's right in front of you. And in this SUV, you're still so low to the road. Now, I wouldn't really look at this car as being like a sports car replacement. I don't think it's trying to be that. Is it trying to be the best sports SUV experience? Absolutely. I mean, I'll say it again, because as you drive and you forget what you're driving, I mean, you just genuinely have a good time in this thing. And that's what this car is all about, because if you're going to spend, you know, 30, 40 grand extra on a car, you know, from the lower models, you want to make sure that it's fun first and foremost, because otherwise, what are you spending all that extra money on? In terms of responsiveness from the transmission, in this car, you have Porsche's brilliant PDK transmission. And I can't say enough about these transmissions because it's my favorite dual clutch. And I think many would agree with that. It's perfectly responsive. I mean, like, watch, you tap up, boom, it's just right there. The shifts are instantaneous. And the nice thing, if you don't know this about a dual clutch transmission, is you could skip gears. Where in a traditional torque converter transmission, when you hit the paddles, you have to wait for it to go, like, say, like fourth, then third. This, tap, tap, already in second gear. You could definitely feel the active air suspension managing all the body movements in this car. Has body roll been completely eliminated? I would say no. You definitely still notice a little bit of body roll, but it's so controlled that you don't mind it. Another thing I like is that these seats have air bolsters not only on the sides of the seat, but on the bottom as well, so that they really hug you and hold you in place, but they're just so comfortable. And what I like is you could adjust the bolsters for your size. You know, if you're a bigger person, you could definitely fit in this car comfortably. And me, I'm a little bit smaller, so I could, you know, get these things to really hug me and hold me in place. It really just keeps you at a nice position. You know, for $100,000, you definitely want something that feels more upscale and more premium. And I feel Porsche has done a good job with the interior of this car to make it feel like it's an upscale product. Everything you look, feel, and touch is real leather. It's not faux leather like you get in some cars where they, you know, stitch the faux leather on the dash and they think that's good. No, to some people that really matters, having real leather. Anything you look at and you feel is real leather. You know, if it's metal, it's metal. You know, Porsche doesn't play around with materials like that, and I really appreciate that. All right, let's get an acceleration running. Wow. Overall, I definitely recommend the turbo model if you're somebody who's looking for a well-rounded, high-performance daily driver. I think that this car accomplishes exactly what it sets out to be. It's not trying to be a sports car replacement. It's kind of trying to be like a sports car supplement. Like, say if you have a 911 sitting in the garage, or just any sports car sitting in the garage, but it's not practical to use year-round, this gives you the sports car feel in this form factor, which for some people is exactly what they need. And it just does it so well. You know, you want something that handles great. It handles just as good as some sports cars. You want something that has, you know, a lot of power. This car has enough power for what it is. You want something that's responsive. With that PDK transmission, I mean, the response is right there with this car. You know, any input you give to this car, you definitely feel it react right away, which can't be said for a lot of these sports SUVs. But this car is definitely, as I said earlier, for somebody who's looking for something more subtle. Somebody that doesn't want to, you know, somebody that wants something nice but doesn't want to stand out too much, because there isn't much that differentiates this car looks-wise from a standard Macan to to this. I mean, yes, you know, for the trained eye, we know right away what this car is, but to the untrained eye, this car kind of blends in, you know, as a very nice car, but, you know, nothing like, oh my God, you know, let me pull out my cell phone and film it. You know what I mean? And for some people, that's exactly what they're looking for. And I think that this car overall is just a great car for what it is, as long as you could justify the money. Wow, that is just a lot of fun. And there you have it, guys. You know, I mean, definitely check one of these out for yourself. Well, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it for you. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to help me out by smashing that like button for the YouTube algorithm, because it really helps to promote the videos. And be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you don't miss out on my future content. Before we go though, I'd like to say a special thanks to my friends down at Porsche of Fairfield, Connecticut for making this review possible. They're an awesome, super helpful, friendly group of people. So if you're in the market for a new Porsche, be sure to check them out. And with that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next video.